Hello everybody, welcome back to my Flight Simulator 2024 guide series. Today's video I'm going to be going over how to fly missed approaches in Flight Simulator. I'm going to go over kind of 2/3 ways of flying them. I'm going to show you a fully manual flying of a missed approach. I'm going to show you how to activate a missed approach with the Garmin G1000, and then I'll show you how to activate it with the Garmin G3000 as well. So we are currently paused on the turn into Leeds Bradford Airport in England. You can see we are about to turn towards the final approach fix, so I'll just go over what I will do and then I'll show you how to do it practically. So when I unpause the simulator, I will arm the approach, and as soon as the plane has picked up the localizer and the glide slope, I will then set up for the missed approach. So checking the chart here, these blue figures on the chart are our missed approach. So we can see here we have to climb to 2,000 feet. Looking at this blue line, that's 2,000 feet at 318 degrees heading. Once we hit 2,000 feet, we will turn a right turn and head to the LBA, or over the Leeds Bradford Airport, and that will be climbing to 3,000 feet. And at this point, we would then contact the tower or the approach and let them know that we have flown the missed approach. So like I say, that is these blue. It also says it down here, so this is the heading that we would fly for the missed approach. Then at a minimum of 2,000 feet, we would right turn direct to Leeds Bradford Airport, climbing to 3,000 feet. So I will unpause the simulator now and I will show you how I would set that up for a manual approach. Then we'll fly around and I'll show you how to do it with a Garmin G1000. There we go, simulator is unpaused. I'm going to arm the approach here. So we know approach is armed, localizer armed and glide slope armed. Also VPAF is armed, so the plane will automatically descend at the speed we want to descend. Just make sure that we're set up for the landing here, so that is 2,500 RPM in the Cessna 172 or thereabouts, making sure we are full rich. And when we get around this turn, I will just put in 1 notch of flaps to ensure that we can slow down to the correct landing speed. So missed approaches are flown when we either hit our minimums, which for this approach is 900 feet on the barometer, or if we're coming in too fast. Basically you fly a missed approach when you don't think you're going to be able to safely land. The basics are always the same whether you're flying it manually or with the Garmin's. As soon as you have decided you're flying a missed approach, you would full power and then go at the heading and climb to the altitude, and then kind of do the same thing that you would do for if you were doing a takeoff. So you would take landing gear out and raise your flaps. There we go, we are armed on the localizer, so I'm going to put in 1 notch of flaps. There's 1 notch of flaps. Like I say, we won't set anything up until we are armed on the glide slope, which is this blue, green diamond coming down here. See it descending. So I'll just get the chart up ready to set up the plane for the missed approach. Here we go, coming to the final approach fix now. So we are armed and active on the glide slope, so I'm going to set up the plane for the missed approach now. First thing I would do is basically going down this blue list. I'm going to sync the heading bug and set it to the heading that we need to fly for the missed approach. So that is 318 degrees over here. So that is set up on here. Next thing, I'm going to set our first altitude that we need to climb to. So that is going to be 2,000 feet. And I know that at 2,000 feet, I'm then going to right turn over the airport and climb to 3,000 feet. So that is what I will do for the missed approach. So I can just close that chart down. I'll actually just move the chart over here so you can see it. When I untab it, I'm hoping that stays in the same place. See the airport here? So like I say, I'll just speed up the sim rate a little bit to get us in a little bit quicker. There you can see we've got our minimum set for what would be our minimum decision altitude. So this is the last point where we can decide if we're going to take land or not. You don't have to do the missed approach at this point. You can do it at any point that you don't think you are going to manage to land. So like I say, if you're coming in way too fast, always better to fly missed approach than just crash the plane into the runway. We've got our landing clearance, so we'll just acknowledge that. As soon as we cross over kind of threshold of the runway and we are set up ready and flying the missed approach, I would declare missed approach to the ATC, and I'll show you what process is there as well. Just speed up again. Speed up till we get to about 1,400 feet on the barometer. we go. Currently set up for the landing. Always flying down this, I'll be going, am I safe to land, am I safe to land? In reality, if this was me actually landing, I would see that I'm maybe a little bit too fast here and be kind of deciding maybe I'm going to go missed approach at this point. Or maybe you can't see anything denoting on the runway, so you can't see the PAPI lights or any indication where the runway is. All basic signs for when you would fly the missed approach. Like I say, this first one will be all manual, and then I will show you how to, I'll fly around and come in again and show you how to do it with the Garmin G1000, flying the missed approach for you. We're coming to the decision altitude now, or the final decision altitude. So at this point, if I was going to fly missed approach, I would disengage the autopilot, decide I'm flying missed approach, go full power, pitch the plane up, and I'm going to take the flaps out. There we go. At this point, I would arm the autopilot, put us into heading mode and flight level change mode, and ensure that it's going to send us at our optimum climb speed. There we go. I'm going to change our CDI from the localizer just onto anything else. At this point, I'm going to declare missed approach with the ATC.
Leeds Tower Cessna Golf, India Quebec Lima Oscar is going missed.
There we go. So I've declared with the ATC. They should respond.
Cessna Quebec Lima Oscar contact Leeds approach on 134.
Told me to contact Leeds approach. Acknowledge the handoff, and I'm coming up to that 2,000 feet now, so I know after 2,000 feet, right turn over the airport at 3,000 feet. So I'm going to set this to 3,000 feet, again hit flight level change and ensure we are climbing at 74 knots, optimum climb speed, tune the approach. I'm going to go report missed approach as published because it's on the published chart, and I'm going to right turn over the airport.
Flying the Leeds ILS runway, tree 2 published missed approach.
Cessna Golf, India Quebec Lima Oscar Roger. Fly published missed approach. Advise reaching 3,000 feet for further instructions.
So they've told me at 3,000 feet I need to report that I've finished the missed approach and await further instructions at that point. There we go, coming up to 3,000 feet now. So I'm going to report I've finished with the missed approach.
Leeds approach Cessna Golf, India Quebec Lima.
Carry on turning over the runway.
Missed approach ILS runway, tree 2 at
And they should
3,000
hopefully
feet.
give me another landing clearance.
Cessna Quebec Lima Oscar, you are 2 miles north. Climb and maintain 13,000 feet. Expect ILS runway tree 2 approach via Lima Bravo Alpha transition. Clear to Lima Bravo Alpha.
There we go, so 13,000 feet, so I'll put that
Quebec Lima Oscar climb and maintain 4,000
and down to
feet.
4,000 feet. I've got 4,000 feet, hit that, acknowledge that, assigned approach,
Climb and maintain 4,000 feet.
Hit
Expect ILS runway tree 2
procedure,
approach
and
via
activate the
Lima Bravo
approach to
Alpha
Leeds Bradford
transition.
Alpha.
Cleared to Lima Bravo
And I'll
Alpha
put the
Cessna
plane
Quebec Lima Oscar.
hopefully back into nav mode, so it should follow the GPS. And again, just once I've done that, I'm going to hit approach and hit activate the approach, and it will then take me round to where our initial approach fixes. Just ensure the plane's climbing to 4,000 feet at 74 knots. And from this point, you are basically flying a landing procedure again. So that is how to manually fly the missed approach. I'll get us to the same point in the video where we are just coming up to the final approach fix, and I'll show you how to activate the G1000 to fly the approach automatically. I'll see you at that point in the video. You join me again on the left turn towards the final approach fix. So the setup is always the same for missed approaches. So as soon as I've got the localizer and the glide slope active after hitting the approach, I'm going to manually set up the altitude and the heading that I need to fly. And then once we get past this runway 32 missed approach point, then I will show you how to activate a missed approach with the Garmin G1000. So I'll unpause the sim now. We're on this turn, so I'll arm the approach. There we go. Localizer armed, glide slope armed. Speed up the sim to get around this turn a little bit quicker. There we go, so active on the localizer, just waiting for active on the glide slope, and then like I say, I will set up the plane for the missed approach. Exactly the same as when we were doing it manually, so I'll just speed up a little bit to let that glide slope indicator come down here. There we go, active on both, so I'm going to contact the tower and let them know I'm on the inbound. Once again, check the chart, set this to 2000, set our heading to 318.
Southeast inbound ILS runway, tree 2 approach.
I click this, 318. So if I need to do it manually, I can do it manually. Exactly the same setup as a manual for this point. So if I go missed approach, I will full throttle. Just drop a notch of flaps there just to simulate the landing. I'll acknowledge the pattern instruction. The only difference is, as soon as I go full throttle, this will probably come up with suspend. Once I've crossed this runway 32 missed approach point, I will click CDI to change this to GPS, and I'll hit procedure on this point here, scroll down and hit activate missed approach, and the Garmin G1000 will automatically fly the missed approach for us. So I will show you that now. Again, I'll just speed up to the runway.
Cessna Quebec Lima Oscar Wine Tree 00 at 10. Clear to land runway tree 2.
No, acknowledge the landing clearance.
Cleared to land runway.
Exactly the same ATC procedure. Fly the missed approach once we are past the missed approach point, and then once we get the Garmin has flown us to 3000, we would let them know that we've flown the missed approach and completed it, and then again they will give us an approach clearance to land again. Speed up just a little bit. There's what looks like an EasyJet there, just paused in front of us, in front of the runway, so I guess that would constitute the need to fly a missed approach. There we go, speed up down to 9,000 feet again, light in as we normally would. That paused, or is he just taxiing? Oh, he's just disappeared. He was just taxiing on... No, he's back. He is taxiing on the grass. Go, coming to 1,000 feet now, so this would be our minimums. This is where we're going to decide whether we want to land or not. So at this point, I'm going to decide it is not safe to land with the big jet parked sideways on the runway. Disengage the autopilot, full throttle, keep flying straight forwards, raise the flaps, and just pitch up a little bit. There we go, we've got a positive rate of climb, so at this point I'm going to click CDI, change this to GPS, keep the rate plane going forwards, hit procedure, and enter on activate missed approach. Change this to nav. There we go, arm the autopilot, and hit flight level change to get to 2,000 feet. So, make sure it's going to climb at 74 for 2,000 feet. Once I set up flying the missed approach, then I'm going to declare the missed approach for the ATC.
Leeds Tower Cessna Golf, India Quebec Lima Oscar is going missed.
Cessna Quebec Lima Oscar contact leads approach on 134.
And once again, asking us to contact leads approach. I'm going to acknowledge the handoff.
134, 58 Cessna Quebec Lima Oscar.
Tune leads approach and report missed approach is published.
Cessna Golf, India Quebec Lima Oscar flying the Leeds ILS runway. Tree 2 published missed approach.
Again, ensure flight level change for the 3,000 feet.
Fly published missed approach. Advise reaching 3,000 feet for further instructions.
And they've advised 3,000 feet to request further instructions, which is exactly the same, but this time I am not manually flying the right turn, the Garmin is flying the right turn for me. As soon as we get to 3,000 feet, we'll contact the ATC again, and they will once again give us a landing clearance or the approach procedure to fly to come back into the airport. We're up to 3,000 feet now. There we go. So report finished with the missed approach.
Leads approach Cessna Golf. India, Quebec, Lima, Oscar published. Missed approach ILS runway. Tree 2 at 3,000 feet.
Cessna, Quebec, Lima, Oscar climb and maintain 4,000 feet.
4,000 feet. So I will ensure that I am climbing to 4,000 feet. Acknowledge the assigned approach.
Climb and maintain 4,000 feet. Expect ILS runway. Tree 2 approach. Via Lima Bravo Alpha transition cleared to Lima Bravo Alpha Cessna, Quebec, Lima Oscar.
It cleared us to the Lima Bravo Alpha, so I would again activate the approach, and then the Garmin will fly us on our assigned approach procedure again. So that's how you do it with the Garmin G1000 and how you do it manually. I'll now load into a G3000 plane and just show you exactly the same procedure, but what you need to press for the Garmin G3000. So I will load that up and see you there. Again, turning left into Leeds Bradford Airport, this time in a Vision Jet G2. You can see I am set up for landing here, so I've got my gear down on one level of flaps. I've given the landing a clearance, got VNAV activated, so at this point activate the approach fix. So as soon as we are established on the localizer and the glide slope, I'll again set the plane up for a go around or a missed approach. Exactly the same way, I'll set 2,000 feet for my altitude and 318 feet into my heading, which I can set now, so I can then fly the approach manually if I need to. Just gonna put this auto throttle into manual and speed us up a little bit for this little bit, so I'll go to about 150 knots, I think. I'll speed us up until we're established on the localizer and the glide slope. There we go, we're on the localizer. Just a little bit below the glide slope here, so hoping the plane pitches us up. Again, speed us up until we're established on the glide slope. There we go, established on the glide slope. I'm going to set go around altitude of 2,000 feet into here, and we know 318, so we can fly it manually if needed. Getting down to the runway. There's our landing clearance. Acknowledge the landing clearance there. And speed us up down to about 1,400, 1,300 feet. And get ready to do a go around. There's 1,300 feet, so I'll go normal sim rate from this point. FS back into here. I'll actually disarm the auto throttle at this point and just slow us all the way down.
500.
So 100 feet above minimums. At this point I may decide maybe I'm coming in too fast or I can't see the runway, so I'm going to decide I'm going to do a go around. So I'll full throttle, pull back on the stick. There we go, autopilot's disarmed. I'm going to raise the landing gear, raise the flaps. I'm going to change our nav source to FMS. Procedure button and hit activate missed approach. You can see here it's flying us 2,000 feet. I'm going to declare the missed approach, arm the autopilot, and ensure we're in nav mode. And hit flight level change here. There we go. I'll acknowledge the handoff.
13458 Victor Echo Delta.
Tune the approach and report the missed as published.
Leeds approach golf.
There we go.
Whiskey Victor Echo Delta flying the Leeds ILS runway. Tree 2 published missed approach.
And select the 3,000 feet and hit FLC. And they've told us when we get to 3,000 feet report that we've flown the mist. So we'll do that now. And rearm the auto throttle now. There we go, coming up to 3,000 feet. Report finished with the mist approach.
Leads approach Golf. Whiskey Victor Echo Delta published missed approach ILS runway tree 2 at 2,900 feet.
Victor Echo Delta, you are 4 miles north. Climb and maintain 3,000 feet. Expect vectors ILS runway tree 2 approach.
There we go, so we'll put that procedure in there.
4,000 feet.
And maintain 4,000. So I'll just hit flight level change and I'll put ILS via the vectors like they've told us. Load and activate. Click OK and acknowledge the assigned approach.
Climb and maintain 4,000
So that's how you fly missed approach on the G3000, the G1000, and fly them manually. I hope that's helped some of you out, and I'll see you in the next video.